Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us for another one here at Annie Narrates. The title for this one goes like this. Dad comes back into my life after years of abandonment, expects me to welcome his new girlfriend and baby with open arms, and when I refuse to entertain them, he says, "This is the same reason why I left you in the first place." I snapped and did this to ruin his life forever. Hi everyone, I'm Sarah, 30 female, and this is the story of how I took revenge on my father Brad, 52 male. Growing up, it was just me, my sister, and our mom. You see, when my little sister was only 2 years old and I was 7, our dad Brad left us. Mom and dad used to argue a lot, and one night, mom came back from work to find dad packing his bags. He said he was done and didn't want to be a part of our lives anymore. Mom tried everything to make him stay. She begged, cried, and yelled, but dad had made up his mind. They were soon divorced after that. I want to share more about why my dad wasn't the best dad. Even when he was around, mom had to take care of everything. She worked hard to provide for us, and on top of that, she had to handle all the household chores too. Dad wasn't much help. He seemed to avoid responsibility and was often distant, leaving mom to manage everything on her own. It was tough for her, juggling work, taking care of us, and handling the daily tasks that come with running a household. As I got older, I started to see more clearly how my dad's actions had affected our family. He missed important moments in our lives, like birthdays and school events. Even when he was present, he wasn't really there for us emotionally. It felt like mom was the one who had to pick up the pieces and ensure we had a stable and loving home. One thing that hurt the most was how dad abandoned us when my sister was just a toddler. Imagine being a young child and not having your dad around to play with or guide you. It wasn't easy for mom either, having to explain to us why dad wasn't there and trying to fill the void that he left behind. As the years went by, dad's absence continued to impact us. There were financial struggles, emotional challenges, and moments of loneliness. Mom worked tirelessly to provide for us, often sacrificing her own needs to ensure that we had everything that we required. I took on more responsibilities to help ease the burden on mom, stepping into a role that dad should have filled. One of the saddest parts of our story is that we all knew where our dad, Brad, was living. Even though I was fed up with him, my little sister Ashley, 25 female, still had a soft spot for him. It was really confusing for me because he missed all the important things in her life. I honestly couldn't understand why she still cared about him. We got used to dad not being around. It became normal for us, and it was kind of like he wasn't even a part of our lives. But what hurt the most was that he would sometimes text Ashley. It was like he was keeping her on the hook, you know. He'd send messages, but when it came to making a real effort to make her happy or build a connection, he never tried. Ashley would get these texts from dad, and it seemed like he was interested, but it was all just talk. He never followed through with actions that showed he wanted to be a better dad. It was tough for Ashley because deep down, she wanted a relationship with him. She wanted to feel like he cared and that he would be there for her. But dad's efforts were kind of empty. He wouldn't come to important events or spend time with us. It was like he didn't want to put in the work to be a real dad. Ashley would sometimes get excited when he texted, thinking maybe this time he'd be there for her, but it always ended in disappointment. I remember birthdays when dad would promise to come, but he never did. It hurt Ashley a lot. She wanted a dad who would be there for her, celebrate her achievements, and support her dreams. But dad just couldn't step up to the plate. It wasn't just about missing events. It was about missing the chance to build a true father-daughter bond. He never took the time to understand her interest or what made her happy. It was like he didn't see the value of being a part of her life. I think Ashley held on to the hope that one day, dad would change, that he would realize that he was missing and make an effort to be a real dad. But as time went on, it became clear that he wasn't going to change. It was heartbreaking for all of us, especially Ashley. Despite all the tough times, we've come out stronger. I'm a lawyer, and Ashley has stepped into the world of marketing. We're doing really well overall. About a year ago, I got married, and my husband and I are having a blast, enjoying our married life. But here's the thing, I didn't invite my dad to the wedding. Ashley thought I should at least send him an invitation, but I just didn't want him there on the best day of my life. Instead, it was mom who walked me down the aisle. She's been there for us through thick and thin, and having her by my side meant the world to me. But Ashley thought it might be a good idea to give him a chance to see if he would show up and be a part of our special day. But I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Ashley would talk to me saying things like, maybe Dad has changed, or it's a big day for the family. But I knew deep down that he hadn't really changed. I didn't want to risk having him spoil the happiness of our wedding. It was my big day, and I wanted it to be filled with joy and love, not disappointment. I appreciated Ashley's concerns, and I knew she wanted the best for us. But I had made up my mind. I didn't want Dad there, and I didn't want to take the chance of him letting us down again. Mom, on the other hand, was the one who had always been there for us, supporting us and being the strong pillar of our family. Walking down the aisle with Mom was a special moment. It symbolized the strength and resilience of our family. Even though Dad wasn't there, our family bond was unbreakable. Mom had played both roles of a mom and dad, and I wanted to honor her on my wedding day. Just about a month ago, we decided to throw a big retirement party for Mom. It was a special day because she had worked so hard all her life. The retirement party was going great. We had decorations, good food, and lots of friends and family. Mom was enjoying herself, and everyone was celebrating her well-deserved break after years of hard work. Then Brad walks in with a young woman, supposedly in her early 30s. I couldn't believe my eyes. I wanted to kick him out right away, but my mom and sister convinced me to calm down and not create a scene. They didn't want anything to ruin Mom's special day. Every time I looked at Dad, I felt this strong urge to confront him. It was like all those years of frustration and disappointment came rushing back. But I took a deep breath and decided not to let him spoil the celebration. Eventually, Dad came up to me. He gave me a hug, and it felt strange after all these years. I wasn't sure how to react. Then he introduced me to Rachel. She worked as an interior designer, and Dad seemed really proud to have her by his side. It was weird meeting his new girlfriend at Mom's retirement party, but I tried to keep things civil for Mom's sake. Dad acted like everything was normal, like he hadn't been absent for so many important moments of our lives. It was confusing and frustrating. I had mixed emotions: anger, disappointment, and a bit of shock. Rachel, on the other hand, was friendly. She tried to make small talk, asking about my job and life. It was awkward, but I appreciated her effort. I couldn't help but wonder what Dad had told her about us and our family. As the party continued, I focused on enjoying the time with Mom and the guests. I didn't want Dad's unexpected appearance to take away the joy of celebrating Mom's retirement. I could see that Mom was happy, surrounded by friends and family who truly cared for her. Then Dad dropped another bombshell. Rachel was pregnant with his baby. He said that his little baby would need their older sisters to take care of them. I almost burst out laughing. It was like he had lost his mind. I couldn't believe how delusional he was, to think he could just walk in after so many years and expect us to welcome him and his new family with open arms. I looked at him and couldn't hold back. I told him straight up that he must have lost his mind. How could he even think we would just jump in and play happy family after all this time? It was just too much for me to handle. My mom and my husband tried to calm me down, telling me to take it easy, but I wasn't having it. I felt like I needed to let Dad know how his actions had hurt us all these years. It wasn't fair for him to waltz in and act like everything was okay. Dad seemed oblivious to the tension in the room. He was so caught up in his own world, thinking that we would be thrilled to take care of his new baby. I couldn't wrap my head around it. After all those years of him not being there for us, he had some nerve to expect us to be there for his new family. It felt like a slap in the face, and I couldn't stay silent. I told him that he needed a reality check. He couldn't just show up and expect us to have a happy family when he hadn't been a real dad to us. The room got even more tense, and I could see the discomfort on everyone's faces. Dad was taken aback by my reaction, probably not expecting such a strong response. But I needed him to understand that his actions had consequences, and he couldn't expect us to erase all the pain he had caused. My mom tried to mediate, saying that maybe we should talk about it calmly, but I was too fired up. I needed Dad to know that his words weren't going to magically fix everything. It wasn't that easy to mend the broken pieces of our family. In that moment, it became clear that there were deep wounds that needed healing, and Dad's words weren't going to be enough. It was a tough situation, and I couldn't shake off the frustration and anger that had built up over the years. After Dad's surprising announcement, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned to my husband and said we needed to leave. I looked at Dad and told him that I hope he and his new family are really happy together. It felt like the right thing to do, because his sudden return had stirred up so many emotions. But Dad tried to stop me. He said I couldn't just walk away from the family. I couldn't believe it. I snapped back at him, asking why not? After all, that's exactly what he did to us. It was like he expected us to be okay with everything he did and just fall in line. His response shocked me even more. He said that I had always been a brat, and this was the reason he left us in the first place. According to him, he was tired of the women in the house bossing him around. That was the last straw for me. I had had enough of this. I looked at him and said, enough is enough. I couldn't believe he was trying to turn it around on me, blaming me for his choices. It was infuriating. I didn't want to be a part of this toxic conversation, so I decided it was time to leave. But my story wasn't over. I felt this burning desire to take revenge and teach Dad a lesson. You see, in California, there is no limit for child support claims, and being a lawyer, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I wanted Dad to face the consequences of not supporting us, as he was legally obligated to do. Convincing my mom to sue Dad for child support was a big step, and it took some time to get her on board. I sat down with her and explained how Dad should have been helping out financially, especially since he was legally obligated to do so. I wanted her to understand that this was our right, and we deserved the support he had never provided. First, I laid out the facts about child support and how it's meant to ensure that both parents contribute to the financial well-being of their children. I wanted Mom to see that she wasn't asking for anything unfair. It was about making sure Dad fulfilled his responsibility. Then I shared how this could make a real difference in our lives. Child support wasn't just about getting back at Dad. It was about ensuring that Mom had the financial support she needed to take care of us. I wanted her to see the practical side of it, how it could help ease the burden she had been carrying alone for so long. I could see the hesitation in Mom's eyes, but I assured her that pursuing child support was the right thing to do. It was about standing up for ourselves and making sure Dad fulfilled his responsibilities as a parent. It took a while, but eventually she agreed to move forward with the legal action. Sending the notice to Dad about Mom suing him for child support was like the best day ever. I'll never forget the flood of messages on every single one of Mom's phones. He left his messages one after another, calling us entitled brats for thinking he owed us or Mom any money. It was a lot, but let me share a bit. He said, "You've got some nerve suing me. What do you think I owe you?" "It's not about what we think," Mom chimed in. "It's about what you owe for the years you were supposed to support your kids." Eventually, we reached an out-of-court settlement, and Dad had to give us a bunch of money. It felt like a victory, like finally getting some justice for all those years of struggling without his support. But hold on, the story doesn't end there. His misery continues. "This is ridiculous," Dad shouted at me as we were leaving the office. "I can't believe you're doing this to me." "Well, Dad," I responded, "you should have thought about that before abandoning us." Now, here's where it gets interesting. His fiancée Rachel ended up leaving him because he was pretty much broke. She dropped the bomb, saying that it wasn't even his baby. It was like a double blow for Dad, losing money and losing someone he thought was going to be his family. "It looks like your choices are coming back to bite you, Dad," I texted him once I knew everything. I can't say I felt sorry for him. After everything he put us through, it seemed like karma was catching up. Dad had to face the consequences of his choices, and it wasn't easy for him. I could see how this turn of events affected him. Losing Rachel and finding out he wasn't going to be a dad again hit him hard. It was a wake-up call, maybe, for him to realize the impact of his actions on the people he left behind. So, this was the story of my revenge. Some of you might think that I went too far, but I feel like I finally got satisfaction. So guys, am I the a-hole for doing what I did? After all the stuff that happened, my dad decided to not let things go. But instead of calming down, he made things even crazier. He didn't stop with just calling us. He started showing up at our place and our mom's place. It got pretty intense. He would shout and call us names, making things super uncomfortable. So, my mom, being fed up with all the chaos, told Dad that she needed some space. She went to stay at her sister's place for a while, hoping things would cool down, but that didn't stop Dad. Nope, he kept showing up at our home at any hour of the day. It was like he couldn't accept that we needed some space and quiet. It could be breakfast time, or we could be watching TV, and suddenly, there he was at the door, yelling and creating a scene. It was so stressful. I tried talking to him, asking him to give us a break, but it seemed like he wasn't listening or didn't care. I asked him why he was doing this. He said he just wanted to talk and sort things out. But honestly, it felt more like he was trying to control everything and force his way back into our lives. It was pretty clear that Dad was having a hard time dealing with what happened. Maybe he felt guilty, or who knows. But the way he was acting just made things worse. Recently, my dad stopped calling and showing up out of the blue. At first, I felt kind of relieved that he wasn't causing any more trouble in my life. But guess what I found out just yesterday? He's been crashing at Angela's place. And let me tell you, I was so mad when I heard that. So I called Angela to find out what was going on. I straight up asked her what she thought she was doing by letting Dad stay with her. She told me that Dad had said that he was homeless now, and he didn't want to leave him high and dry. That got me even angrier. I told her, Angela, he had no problem leaving us high and dry for all those years. Where was his concern for us? But she shot me down, saying she didn't want to discuss it anymore. It was like a punch in the gut. I couldn't believe Dad was playing the sympathy card, making it seem like he had nowhere to go. It felt so unfair because for the longest time, he never cared about where we ended up or how we were struggling. I guess I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to shake Angela and make her see that Dad wasn't as innocent as he claimed. He was using her kindness to escape the consequences of his actions. But at the same time, I felt a bit helpless because Angela didn't want to hear it. I tried to explain to her that Dad needed to face the reality of what he had done. He couldn't keep relying on others to bail him out while ignoring the pain he caused us. But Angela seemed determined to shield him from facing the consequences. It made me wonder if Angela really understood the whole story. Did she know about the years Dad was absent from our lives? Did she know about the struggles Mom, my sister, and I went through while he was nowhere to be found? It felt like there was so much she didn't know. In the end, I had to let it go. If Angela was willing to support Dad, despite everything, there wasn't much I could do. It was frustrating though, to see him continuing to lean on others without taking responsibility for his own actions. My dad, the scum he is, did something awful again. After staying at Angela's place for a whole month, he did the unthinkable. He stole $5,000 from her and disappeared from the city. Angela called me, sobbing, and shared the heartbreaking news. She told me that Dad wasn't answering his phone, and she felt betrayed and hurt. Feeling a mix of anger and disappointment, I rushed over to Angela's home to see how she was doing. She showed me all the text messages she had sent to Dad, desperately trying to reach him. It was clear that he had no intention of facing the consequences of his actions. I told Angela that she needed to file a police report to make sure Dad was held accountable for what he did. But she hesitated, saying she didn't want to go through that process. She believed she might not get the money back anyway, and all she wanted was to forget about it and move on. It was a tough situation. On one hand, I understood Angela's desire to avoid more trouble and pain. Going to the police can be a long and stressful process, and there is no guarantee of getting the stolen money back. But on the other hand, it felt like Dad was escaping once again without facing any consequences. I tried explaining to Angela that filing a police report was crucial, not just for her, but for everyone Dad might try to hurt in the future. It was about stopping him from repeating the same harmful behavior. However, Angela was hesitant, weighed down by the emotional toll of the situation. In the end, Angela decided not to file a police report. She chose to prioritize her own peace of mind over seeking justice. It was her way of trying to move on from the pain Dad had caused, even if it meant letting him get away with stealing from her. In the end, all I could do was support Angela in her decision and be there for her emotionally. When God was picking our dad, he surely made a great decision. Hey again, it's been a while since my last update, but I wanted to share something that just happened. A bit of a silver lining to this whole crazy story. It seems like guilt finally caught up with my dad, and my baby sister received $5,000 in cash from him, along with a letter of apology. In the letter, Dad mentioned that he wanted to say sorry, not just to my sister, but also to me and my mom for all the pain he caused us. It's surprising to hear him admitting his mistakes and expressing remorse after all this time. It feels like a small step towards acknowledging the hurt that he inflicted on our family. Honestly, I'm not ready to forgive him just yet. The wounds are still fresh, and it'll take time for things to heal. But it's a relief to see some form of remorse from him. Maybe, just maybe, it's a sign that he's starting to understand the consequences of his actions. I can't deny that receiving the money and apology brings a bit of closure to this messy chapter. It doesn't erase the past, but it's a step towards acknowledging the pain and taking responsibility. My sister seems to be handling it well, and I hope it brings her some peace. So even though forgiveness might not be on the table right now, I can still choose to move on from this mess. It's a chance to focus on building a positive future for myself and the people who truly care about me. Dad's apology might be a small step, but it's a step nonetheless. Time will tell how things unfold, but for now, I'm taking it one day at a time. And that was it for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash that like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again, and we'll be seeing you in the next one.